YouTube? Jeremiah Hersey here, and today is the next episode in my Node to Pro series. We're going to actually be completing a merge today. In the last video, we talked about the different merge or join types within inside of Power BI, and I went through the different ways that we can merge data or join data together. Remember that in order to do this, we have to have a key column. So today we have our city table or query. We want to bring back information. We want an abbreviated state name. We also want the capital of the state so that we can maybe look at stock items sold by capital. That information is not currently in our model, and so we're going to be bringing in a web source. We're going to be using Wikipedia here today, and the link to the PBI file and the Wikipedia page is in the description below. So go ahead and click on that, and let's get started. So here we are inside the Power BI desktop, and we're just going to go up here to the top because we're still working with inside the Power Query editor. And we're going to select Transform Data. The first thing that we're going to look at here is the city table or query. So we can see within inside of our city table that we have our state name here. And as we look through the table, there is no abbreviated state name in here or the capital. We don't have that information in this table currently. And so we want to bring that information in. If we look at our Wikipedia link here, and once again that's in the description, if I scroll down, you can see that this actually has the information we need. It has the abbreviated state name. It also has the capital as well. Now, notice in some instances like Arizona, the capital and the largest city are the same, Phoenix. And so it will actually split this into two columns. So we're going to use our web source up here. So we're going to select the entire URL and we're going to copy it. We're going to go back to our Power Query editor and we're going to go up here to New Source under the Home tab and select a web source. So when that pops up, we're going to paste our URL right inside. And as always, when we're working inside the Power Query editor, we're going to get a preview of the data. So there's going to be potentially a lot of tables to look through here as it displays the options for us. And so as we scroll down, you can see that there are almost 20 tables or more in here. And so we can get a preview by selecting the name of the table. And so this just says column 1. This one, that has our state abbreviation. That actually looks good. So we don't really need to go too much further. But if we notice down here in the bottom under suggested tables, if I select table 15, notice it looks very similar to what we saw, okay? But the data is broken up a little bit differently. So this table, the States of United States of America table, is going to be our best option. So we're going to select the check mark here and we're going to choose OK. All right, and so we have a couple things that we need to do to kind of clean our table up. But the first thing I want to kind of talk about here is over in the applied step section. Now, we know that this is kind of like a time machine, so we can go back in time and see the source. It comes from that web source, and then it extracted the table from HTML. But notice the third step here. We haven't talked about this yet. The third step is promoted headers. And so notice here, this very first row actually contains the column headers. And so if we want to bring this up, we can use the promoted headers step. Now, Power Query is super smart and actually did it for us. But what if it didn't? How could we perform that? Well, the first option is right here. Use first row as headers. So if Power Query didn't promote the headers for us, we can use this UI button. Or over here in the corner, there's also the drop down option to use the first row as headers. So we do have that option here if the Power Query didn't perform that for us. I just wanted to point that out. So then it changed the data type was the last step. Now, if we promoted this first row to get capital and largest up here, unfortunately, we would also promote the nulls as well, and that's something that we don't want to do. And so I'm just going to change the name of this to capital. And I'm going to change the name of this one so we can keep track of it. This is our abbreviation. And this one's going to be our state. Now, we talked about this in a previous video, how to get rid of this first row. So I'm just going to click the remove row and remove the top row here because we don't need it. Perfect. All right, so we have our abbreviation, our capital. Now, one thing that we have to make sure of, because we know that merging requires a key column. So what column is the same between our city table and our states of the United States table? And that's going to be this state province here. But one of the things we have to take into consideration is these extra characters here. So notice Massachusetts has this E on it. If I click the drop down arrow, remember it gives us a full list of all the values within inside of it. And so if it goes past 1,000 rows, you're going to see this option to load more. This will load all of the distinct values within inside of the table. And so it's going to look through the entire table and load all of the distinct values, not just based on that preview of the first 1,000. And so as we're looking through here, it looks like the only one we really need to worry about is this Massachusetts here. So we're going to clean that up. So an easy way to do that is simply to replace the values. So I'm going to right click and choose to replace the value. And I'm going to replace Massachusetts with Massachusetts. I'm just going to get rid of E. Now we could also split this by delimiter as well. But since there's only one value here that we need to fix, we can just fix the one. But if we're going to be using this as a key column, we want to make sure that we trim this column, removing any leading or trailing empty character spaces. And so I'm going to right click on the column header and choose transform, and we're going to trim. Once again, this removes any leading or trailing character spaces. If you're going to be using a column as a key column, it is recommended that you trim that column. So we know that we're going to be looking at state here, but notice that I have more than one state that's got these little abbreviations out by them. All right. And so we want to make sure that we take care of that. So we could once again just replace the values here. Okay. Or I can split this column by the delimiter. Okay. So we can try splitting the column at the leftmost delimiter, and we could split it at the space, but New York has a space in between it, and so that would not work for us. And so we can put in a custom character here, and I can use that square bracket, and so it's going to split it at the square bracket, and so we can click OK. There's lots of different options in here. Okay, so notice now my state 1 no longer has that, and I can just delete this column if I wanted to. Once again, there's several different options that you can use to complete this task. I'm just going to right click here, and I'm going to trim that column. So now we are now ready to merge our queries together. And so we're going to select the city query or table, and we're going to go up here to our merge options. Now we have two different options. We can either merge into the city table, or we can create a new table or query with the combined information. For us, we are going to merge into the city table. Once again, make sure you have the city query or table selected first. So we're going to merge queries here. So I'm going to choose the second table. And now we are going to choose the key column between the tables. So it's going to be the state province from my city table and the state.1 from the other table. Down below, you can see that we have our join types. So we talked about this in the last video. Here's all the different join types that we can use. We're going to stick the left outer for this video. If you have multiple columns that you want to create a key on, you can hold down Control key and select that as well. But you have to make sure that as you're multi-selecting the keys, you do it in the same order. And so if I'm going to be selecting state first, holding down the Control key for country to create that key, I would just need to make sure that that second column I selected was in the same order. And it has to have the same data types as well. So we're going to do a left merge here. Once again, our key column is going to be the state name. So a left outer means take everything from the city table and anything matching based on that state name. So we're going to click OK. And we can now see that we have tables within inside of our city query. So if you select the cell next to the hyperlink, you're going to see a preview of the information down below underneath your table. In this case, this one is empty. The next one that we select, notice, is Massachusetts. It has information within inside of it. The reason that this first row doesn't have any information is because it is a territory. It's Puerto Rico. So it did not find a match, and so therefore it could not pull information back. To expand this information, we're going to click the expand icon next to where all the table indicators are, and we can choose the columns we want to return. So the only columns that I want to bring back is the abbreviation and the capital. I'm going to uncheck use original column name as prefix and click OK. This will now bring back the abbreviation and the capital for all of my states. And so we can see here for the value that's null, that's going to be the Puerto Rico, but all the rest of them has now brought back the information of not only the abbreviated state name, but also the capital as well, so that we can use that in our filter criteria to build our visuals. I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content. I'll see you in the next one.